Hello, everyone. In today's video, Selena will share her own story, her journey from a girl who knew no English to developing exceptional English listening and speaking skills. Where did her English journey begin, and how did she achieve those skills? Stay tuned and listen carefully. My name is Selena, and I was born in a small, picturesque village nestled in the heart of a lush green valley. Our village was a haven of tranquility, surrounded by fields that seemed to stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Tall trees stood, like guardians, their leaves whispering ancient secrets as the wind gently passed through. Life here was simple but fulfilling, shaped by the rhythms of nature and the unshakable bonds of community. In the mornings, the village would come alive, with the sounds of roosters crowing, children laughing, and the faint hum of the river nearby. The aroma of freshly baked bread and herbal tea wafted through the air as families began their day. Everyone in the village knew each other, and our connections ran deep. Whether it was during festive celebrations or moments of hardship, we stood together like an extended family. Growing up, I didn't know a word of English. We spoke only our local language, one that was as vibrant and rich as the land we lived on. To us, the world beyond our village was distant and unknown, a place we could only imagine through the tales told by visitors who occasionally passed through. But we didn't mind. Life was good, and we were content with what we had. One day, everything changed. An old man with a mysterious air arrived in our village. He wore a worn hat and carried a bag filled with trinkets and books that seemed to tell stories of their own. The villagers, as was our custom, welcomed him with open arms. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting a golden glow over the fields, we gathered around him in the village square. The old man began to speak, his voice deep and captivating. He told us stories of distant lands, bustling cities, and adventures that seemed almost magical. But one story stood out to me. It was about a young girl who learned English and used it to explore the world. She traveled far and wide, met people from all walks of life, and discovered opportunities that had once seemed impossible. As he spoke, I felt something awaken inside me, a spark of curiosity and yearning that I couldn't ignore. I imagined myself as that girl, standing on foreign shores, conversing with strangers in a language that unlocked doors to endless possibilities. The idea of learning English suddenly felt like the key to a world I had only dreamed of. That night, lying under the thatched roof of our small home, I couldn't stop thinking about the old man's story. For the first time, I felt a longing to go beyond the borders of our village and see what lay beyond. I wanted to learn English, to understand the words that connected people across the world. But as quickly as the dream took root, doubts began to creep in. How could a girl like me, born in a small, remote village, achieve something so extraordinary? We had no resources for learning English, and I had no idea where to even begin. The world beyond our village felt vast and intimidating, and I felt small and unprepared. Still, the dream refused to fade. Days turned into weeks, and the story of the girl who learned English stayed with me. It became a constant presence in my mind, igniting both hope and uncertainty. Little did I know, this dream would soon set me on a path that would change my life forever. Part 2. Inciting Event. It was an ordinary day in the village, with the sun shining brightly and children playing in the fields. I, Selena, was sitting near the old banyan tree, weaving a basket from dried reeds, when the air seemed to change. A soft murmur spread through the village square as people gathered, curious about the arrival of a traveler, a rare event in our quiet little home. The traveler was an old man with a long, flowing beard and eyes that sparkled with the wisdom of countless journeys. He wore a faded cloak and carried a satchel filled with trinkets, maps, and books that seemed to have traveled as far as he had. Despite his age, his posture was firm, and his voice, when he spoke, carried a quiet strength that immediately drew everyone's attention. The village elders invited him to stay, offering him food and a place to rest. Grateful, he agreed, but he also promised something in return: a night of storytelling for all who wished to listen. The news spread quickly, and by sunset, nearly every villager had gathered in the square, lanterns glowing softly as the sky turned a deep indigo. I sat cross-legged on the ground, my heart racing with anticipation. Storytelling had always been my favorite part of village life, but there was something different about this man. His stories felt alive, as if he carried the world's wonders in his voice. He began by recounting tales of ancient kingdoms, fierce battles, and lost treasures. But then he told a story that captured my soul. Once, he said, there was a young girl who lived in a village much like this one. Her name was Amara. She was curious, always dreaming of what lay beyond the horizon. But like many in her village, she didn't know English, the language that connected people from faraway lands. Without it, the world outside seemed like an unreachable mystery. His voice lowered, and the audience leaned in closer. One day, Amara met a traveler who spoke of vast cities, bustling markets, and opportunities that could change a life forever. Inspired, she decided to learn English, knowing it would be her key to exploring the world. It wasn't easy. She faced challenges, doubt, and moments of despair, but she never gave up. With time, she mastered the language, and her life transformed. She traveled to places she once only dreamed of, met people from different walks of life, and returned to her village with knowledge and stories that inspired everyone. As he spoke, I felt a tingling sensation in my chest, as if his words were meant for me. I couldn't stop imagining myself in Amara's place, standing at the edge of a vast ocean, boarding a ship bound for distant lands. For the first time, I saw a vision of a life beyond the fields and trees of our village. When the story ended, the villagers clapped and thanked the traveler, but I remained silent, lost in thought. The tale had stirred something deep within me, a yearning I couldn't ignore. I wanted to be like Amara, to learn English, to discover the world beyond, and to bring back stories of my own. Yet, doubt crept in as quickly as the dream had formed. How could I, Selena, achieve such a thing? We had no books in English, no teachers, and no way to access this world that felt so distant. The thought was overwhelming, and I began to feel the weight of my limitations. That night, as I lay under the stars, the doubts battled with my growing determination. The traveler's story had opened a door in my mind, and though I didn't know how to step through it, I couldn't bring myself to close it either. I began whispering English words I had overheard from him, repeating them under my breath, though I didn't understand their meaning. It was a small step, but it felt like a beginning. The next day, I saw the traveler again before he left the village. Summoning all my courage, I approached him. "Sir," I said hesitantly, "can you teach me a word in English?" He looked at me with a knowing smile. "Of course, child," he replied. "Here's a simple one. Dream. It means the images and hopes you see when your eyes are closed, or the ambitions you hold in your heart." Dream, I repeated softly. The word felt strange on my tongue, but it also felt powerful. It stayed with me as he departed, waving goodbye to the villagers who had gathered to see him off. From that moment, I knew I couldn't ignore the dream that had taken root in my heart. Even if I didn't know where to start or how to overcome the obstacles in my path, I was determined to try. The story of the girl who learned English became more than a tale. It became my guide, my inspiration, and my reason to believe that I too could reach beyond the horizon. Little did I know, My journey was about to begin in the most unexpected way. Part 3: Early Struggles and First Mentor. The days after the old traveler's departure felt different. His story about the girl who learned English had ignited a fire within me, but it also left me grappling with a daunting question. How would I begin? The thought of learning a completely new language felt like trying to climb a mountain barefoot. In our small village, there were no English teachers, no books in the language, and no one who spoke it fluently. I felt like I was standing at the base of an insurmountable peak, unsure of which way to go. Each day, as I went about my chores, fetching water, helping my mother in the kitchen, or weaving baskets, I found myself mumbling the single word the traveler had taught me: dream. I repeated it over and over, feeling its weight and significance. But I wanted more. I wanted to string together sentences, to express myself in the language of possibility and connection. My frustration grew as I realized how little I knew. One afternoon, after a particularly long day, I found myself sitting alone under the banyan tree. I held a small twig in my hand, idly drawing shapes in the dirt. My mind was clouded with doubt. Maybe this is impossible, I whispered to myself. Maybe dreams are meant to stay as dreams. Selena? A gentle voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see Miss Clara, the teacher at our small village school. She was a kind woman with a warm smile and a presence that felt like a comforting embrace. Clara was one of the few people in the village who had completed formal education outside our community. Rumor had it that she even knew how to speak English. "Why are you sitting here all alone?" "You seem troubled," she said, sitting down beside me. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to explain what I was feeling. But something about her calm demeanor encouraged me to open up. "Miss Clara," I began, "I want to learn English. I want to see the world and live the kind of life the traveler spoke about. But I don't know how to start. I don't even know if it's possible for someone like me." Clara's eyes softened, and she smiled. "Selena, the first step to achieving anything is believing in yourself. Learning a new language isn't easy, but it's not impossible. With determination, hard work, and a little guidance, you can do it." Her words sparked a glimmer of hope. "But where do I start?" I asked, my voice tinged with desperation. "I can help you," Clara said simply. "After school each day, come see me. I'll teach you the basics." My heart skipped a beat. "Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course," she replied. "It would be my honor. Your determination reminds me of myself when I was younger. I had to learn English to achieve my dreams, and now I want to help you achieve yours." The very next day, I went to see Clara after school. She greeted me with a small chalkboard and a piece of chalk, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Let's begin with the alphabet," she said. At first, it was overwhelming. The letters looked strange, and my tongue stumbled over unfamiliar sounds. Clara was patient, guiding me through each step with encouragement and praise. She turned every lesson into a small victory. When I mastered the alphabet, she introduced me to simple words: hello, name, book, tree. We practiced together until the words felt less foreign. But the journey was far from easy. There were days when I felt like giving up, when the words refused to stick in my memory, and my tongue tripped over pronunciations. One evening, after struggling with a particularly difficult lesson, I burst into tears. "I'll never get this right," I cried. "I'm not smart enough." Clara knelt beside me, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Selena," she said gently, "every journey has its challenges. Even I struggled when I first started learning English. But you know what kept me going?" I reminded myself of my dream and why I started. "You're stronger than you think, and I believe in you." Her words stayed with me. Slowly, I began to see progress. I could introduce myself in English. "My name is Selena. I live in a small village. I learned to count, to describe the colors of the flowers in the fields, and even to ask simple questions." Clara also encouraged me to practice with others. "The more you use the language, the more natural it will feel," she explained. At first, I was shy, worried that others would laugh at my mistakes. But Clara's encouragement gave me the courage to try. I started speaking simple phrases with the children I played with and even taught them the few words I had learned. One day, Clara handed me a small, worn-out book. "This was the first English book I ever read," she said. "It's simple, but it helped me a lot. Take it, Selena. It's yours now." The book became my treasure. Each evening, by the light of a small oil lamp, I would pore over its pages. I sounded out words, wrote them down, and repeated them aloud. It was slow work, but with every page, I felt myself growing more confident. As weeks turned into months, I began to see the fruits of my labor. I could understand short sentences, hold basic conversations, and even dream in English. The language. that had once felt like an impossible mountain now seemed like a path I could navigate, with Clara by my side. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of my journey. The foundation Clara helped me build would soon lead me to challenges and opportunities beyond anything I had imagined. Part 4. Progress and Inspiration. Months passed, and the once daunting task of learning English became an exciting part of my daily life. With Miss Clara's patient guidance and my unwavering determination, I could feel myself improving. Each lesson built upon the last, and what once felt like random letters and sounds slowly started to make sense. I remember the first time I managed to introduce myself in English without stumbling. My name is Selena. I live in a small village, I said proudly to Clara. She clapped her hands together, her face lighting up with pride. You did it, Selena. See how far you've come? Her encouragement fueled me to keep going. I practiced speaking to myself while doing chores, repeating phrases and words Clara had taught me. Sometimes the villagers would catch me mumbling in English and laugh good-naturedly. Selena, are you talking to the trees now? They'd tease. But I didn't mind. Each word I learned felt like another step toward my dream. One afternoon, Clara gave me a special gift, a book titled The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. The cover was worn and the pages smelled faintly of age, but to me it was a treasure. This was one of the first books I read in English, Clara said. It's a bit challenging, but I think you're ready for it. That night, by the dim glow of the oil lamp in our small home, I opened the book. The words seemed foreign at first, but Clara had taught me how to approach them. I carefully sounded out each sentence, pausing to look up words I didn't understand. The story of Tom Sawyer captivated me. His mischievous adventures, his bold spirit, and his insatiable curiosity reminded me of the life I wanted for myself. As I turned the pages, I felt a connection to Tom's world. It wasn't just the story that inspired me. It was the realization that I could now access something I once thought was out of reach. English was no longer a distant, incomprehensible language. It was becoming my key to a bigger world, inspired by the book. I started carrying it with me everywhere. During breaks from chores, I'd find a quiet spot under a tree and immerse myself in Tom's adventures. Sometimes, the village children would gather around me, curious about what I was reading. "What's the story about, Selena?" they'd ask. At first, I hesitated, unsure if I could explain it in English, but one day I decided to try. "It's about a boy," I began, struggling to find the right words. He likes to explore. He has many adventures. The children listened with wide eyes, and their curiosity gave me the courage to continue. As I told them about Tom's escapades, I realized how much my English had improved. I could express myself clearly, even if my sentences were simple. The children's excitement was infectious, and before I knew it, they were asking me to teach them the words I'd learned. Becoming an unofficial teacher for the village children was both challenging and rewarding. They were eager learners, and their enthusiasm mirrored my own. Together, we practiced the alphabet, basic phrases, and simple sentences. I found myself growing more confident as I shared what I had learned, and their progress motivated me to push myself further. Miss Clara noticed my efforts and encouraged me to keep exploring new ways to improve. "Selena," she said one day, "learning doesn't stop with books. There's so much more you can do. Listen to songs in English, watch movies if you can find them, and speak as much as possible." Taking her advice to heart, I began seeking out any opportunity to immerse myself in the language. When travelers passed through our village, I would summon my courage and greet them in English. "Hello, welcome to our village," I'd say, my heart pounding. Some would stop and chat with me, delighted by my enthusiasm, while others simply smiled and responded kindly. Each interaction, no matter how brief, was a small victory. It proved to me that learning English wasn't just about mastering grammar or vocabulary. It was about connecting with people, sharing stories, and building bridges between worlds. One day, while practicing with Clara, I asked her a question that had been on my mind. "Miss Clara, how did you learn English?" She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. "When I was younger, I dreamed of becoming a teacher," she said. "But to achieve that dream, I knew I needed to learn English. So I worked hard. I borrowed books, listened to the radio, and practiced with anyone who would listen. It wasn't easy, but I reminded myself why I started every time I felt like giving up." Her story inspired me deeply. If Clara could overcome her challenges to achieve her dream, then so could I. From that moment on, I resolved to push myself even harder. I began borrowing more books from Clara's small collection, poring over them late into the night. Each word I learned, each sentence I understood, felt like a step closer to the world I had dreamed of. Slowly but surely, my confidence grew. I started thinking in English, even dreaming in English. It felt as though the language was becoming a part of me, weaving itself into the fabric of my thoughts and aspirations. As I looked back on how far I had come, I realized that what once seemed impossible was now within reach. The girl who had doubted herself, who had felt stuck in the confines of her small village, was now filled with hope and determination. My journey was far from over, but I knew I was on the right path, and the best was yet to come. Part 5. Sharing Knowledge and Community Impact. Months turned into a year, and my journey of learning English had become more than a personal ambition. It had grown into something that brought our entire village together. My progress in the language was becoming evident. I could hold simple conversations, read basic texts, and even share the stories I had read in English. The pride I felt was immense, but what filled my heart the most was how my journey began to inspire others. One sunny afternoon, as I sat under the banyan tree reading aloud from The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, a group of village children gathered around me. They watched me with wide, curious eyes, captivated by the unfamiliar words rolling off my tongue. One of them, a boy named Raju, finally worked up the courage to ask, "Selena, what are you saying? Is it magic?" I laughed and closed the book, gesturing for them to sit closer. "It's not magic, Raju. It's English," I explained. "Would you like to know what the story is about?" They nodded eagerly, and I began to tell them, using a mix of English and our local language to make sure they could follow along. I kept the sentences simple. "This boy, Tom, is brave. He likes to explore. He has many adventures." As I spoke, I saw their excitement grow. "Can you teach us, Selena?" a little girl named Priya asked. Her big brown eyes sparkled with hope, and I couldn't say no. From that day on, the banyan tree became our classroom. Every afternoon, children from the village would gather there, bringing scraps of paper, chalk, and their boundless enthusiasm. We started with the basics, the alphabet, simple words, and greetings. "A is for apple," I would say, drawing a rough apple on the dirt with a stick. They'd repeat after me, their voices filled with joy. The more I taught, the more I realized how much I loved sharing what I had learned. Teaching the children wasn't just about helping them understand English. It was about showing them that they could dream beyond the fields and hills of our village, just as I had. Seeing their faces light up with pride when they mastered a new word or phrase was the most rewarding feeling I had ever experienced. The adults in the village began to take notice of what we were doing. Some were skeptical at first, questioning the value of learning English. "Why should our children learn a language that's not ours?" one elder asked during a gathering. Stood up, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Because English is a bridge," I said. It's a way to connect with the world beyond our village. It's not about leaving behind who we are. It's about adding to it, about giving our children opportunities we never had. My words seemed to resonate, and soon more parents began encouraging their children to join my lessons. Some adults even approached me privately, asking if I could teach them as well. I gladly agreed, and our informal classes under the banyan tree grew into a lively community of learners, young and old alike. Miss Clara noticed the growing enthusiasm and decided to support our efforts. She donated books, chalkboards, and even helped organize lessons on weekends. Together, we turned a small corner of the village school into a dedicated space for learning English. It wasn't much, a few wooden benches and a makeshift blackboard, but to us, it felt like a new beginning. One day, Clara pulled me aside after class. "Selena," she said with a smile, "you've become a teacher in your own right. The way you inspire these children and bring the community together, it's incredible. I'm so proud of you." Her words filled me with a sense of purpose I had never felt before. I realized that my journey was no longer just about learning English for myself. It was about empowering others to dream and believe in their potential. As our lessons continued, something extraordinary began to happen. The children started sharing their own stories in English, however simple. "My name is Priya. I have a dog," one would say proudly. Another would add, "I like mangoes. They are sweet." These small sentences might have seemed insignificant to an outsider, but to us, they were monumental steps forward. The spirit of learning spread throughout the village. Parents began practicing with their children at home, and I started organizing small events where the children could showcase their progress. During one such event, the children performed a short play in English about Tom Sawyer. It was far from perfect. Lines were forgotten, pronunciations were misheard, but the pride on their faces and the applause from the audience made it a moment none of us would ever forget. The impact of our little English lessons went beyond language. The children became more confident, more curious about the world, and more eager to learn. Even the adults who joined our classes found new opportunities. One man, Ravi, was able to secure a job at a nearby town's market because he could now communicate with traders in basic English. "It's all thanks to you, Selena," he told me one day, his eyes filled with gratitude. But I knew it wasn't just me. It was the entire community coming together to embrace something new and challenging. The banyan tree, the school corner, the shared chalkboards, they were all symbols of what we could achieve when we supported one another. As I sat under the banyan tree one evening, watching the children laugh and practice their English sentences, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. My dream of learning English had grown into something far greater than I had ever imagined. It had become a dream for all of us, a dream of connection, opportunity, and hope. Little did I know, the journey was far from over. This was just the beginning of how English, and the bonds it created, would change not just my life, but the lives of everyone in our village. Part 6. Broadening Horizons. Months turned into years, and my once impossible dream of mastering English had transformed into a daily reality. The English lessons under the banyan tree flourished, and I found myself not only teaching but also learning more with every interaction. Yet, deep within me, the desire to see the world, the one that had sparked this entire journey, grew stronger with each passing day. One morning, as I was tidying up the small classroom we had set up in the village school, Miss Clara approached me, holding an envelope in her hand. Her expression was a mix of excitement and pride. "Selena," she said, her voice brimming with emotion, "I have something incredible to share with you. A scholarship program is being offered by an international organization for students who have shown dedication to learning English. They're looking for candidates from rural areas who want to further their education abroad. I think you should apply." I stared at her, stunned. The words felt surreal. Me? Study abroad? But how? I stammered. Clara smiled warmly. "Why, not you, Selena. You've worked so hard and you have the determination they're looking for. You've proven that you're capable of great things. Let's apply together. I'll help you with the paperwork." The thought of leaving the village, my family, and everything I knew was both thrilling and terrifying. But deep down, I knew this was the opportunity I had been dreaming of. With Clara's guidance, I poured my heart into the application. I wrote an essay about my journey, how a single story from a traveler had inspired me to learn English, how Miss Clara had mentored me, and how teaching others had given me purpose. Weeks later, the reply arrived. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope, my heart pounding in anticipation. The words leapt off the page. "Congratulations, Selena. You have been selected for the scholarship program." Tears streamed down my face as I read the letter aloud to my family. My parents embraced me tightly, their pride evident despite their sadness at the thought of me leaving. The entire village gathered that evening to celebrate. Children ran around excitedly, chanting, "Selena is going abroad." Their joy was infectious, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the community that had supported me every step of the way. The journey begins. A few weeks later, I found myself standing at the village bus stop, clutching a small suitcase and the scholarship letter. The entire village had come to see me off. Clara hugged me tightly, her eyes shimmering with tears. "You're going to do amazing things, Selena," she whispered. "Remember, this is just the beginning." As the bus pulled away, I waved goodbye to the faces that had shaped my journey. My heart ached with the bittersweet mix of excitement and longing. The world I had dreamed of was finally within reach, but it also meant stepping into the unknown. When I arrived in the city, everything felt overwhelming. The bustling streets, the towering buildings, the cacophony of voices speaking languages I didn't understand. From there, I boarded my first ever plane, and as it soared into the sky, I gazed out the window in awe, the clouds stretching endlessly before me. A new world. Landing in a foreign country was like stepping into another universe. The air was crisp, the streets were alive with activity, and everywhere I turned, I heard English being spoken fluently. At first, I felt out of place, my heart pounding with nervousness. But I reminded myself why I was here: to learn, to grow, and to embrace this opportunity. The scholarship program was intense but rewarding. I attended language workshops, cultural exchange events, and academic courses that pushed me beyond my limits. For the first time, I met people from all over the world, students like me who had come with big dreams and an eagerness to learn. One of my first friends was Maria, a student from Spain. She was bubbly, curious, and always eager to share stories about her homeland. "Selena," she said one day, "you're so brave to come here from such a small village. Tell me, how did you start learning English?" I shared my journey with her, and she listened intently, her eyes widening with admiration. "Your story is amazing," she said. "You should be proud of how far you've come." Maria and I quickly became inseparable. We studied together, explored the city, and helped each other navigate the challenges of being in a new environment. She introduced me to Spanish cuisine, and I taught her traditional songs from my village. Our friendship became a reminder of how learning a language could bridge cultures and forge lasting bonds, exploring beyond the classroom. As my confidence grew, I began to venture beyond the classroom. I visited museums, attended cultural festivals, and even volunteered at a local community center, teaching English to children from immigrant families. It was in these moments that I truly understood the power of language, not just as a tool for communication, but as a means of building connections and creating opportunities. One weekend, Maria and I decided to visit a famous landmark, the city's Grand Library. Walking through its towering shelves, I felt like a child in a candy store. Rows upon rows of books stretched as far as the eye could see, each one holding a world of stories waiting to be discovered. I picked up a book by Maya Angelou, and her words resonated deeply with me. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. Transformative experiences. As months turned into a year, I found myself transformed. The girl who had once doubted her ability to learn English was now thriving in a foreign land. I had not only gained fluency, but also a sense of independence and confidence I never thought possible. One of the most memorable moments came when I was invited to speak at a cultural exchange event hosted by the scholarship organization. Standing in front of an audience of students, teachers, and dignitaries, I shared my story. How a traveler's tale had inspired me. How Miss Clara's guidance had shaped me. And how my village's support had carried me to where I stood. As I finished, the room erupted in applause. People approached me afterward, praising my courage and determination. Your story is so inspiring, one student said. It shows that dreams really can come true. The road ahead. Though I had come far, I knew my journey was far from over. The world was vast, with endless opportunities to learn, grow, and give back. As I prepared to return to my village, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to share everything I had experienced, to inspire others the way I had been inspired, and to show that no dream was too big, even for a girl from a small village. Stepping onto the plane for the journey home, I carried not just knowledge, but a heart full of gratitude and a determination to make a difference. Little did I know, the impact of my journey would ripple far beyond my own life, touching the hearts of many. Part 7. Returning Home and Giving Back. The journey back to my village felt surreal. As the bus wound through the familiar countryside, I saw the green fields, tall trees, and winding river that had shaped my childhood. But this time, I saw it, all with new eyes. The world beyond my village had changed me, expanded my perspective, and given me tools I never thought I'd possess. Now, I was coming home with a purpose, to give back to the community that had nurtured me. When I arrived at the village, the sight that greeted me took my breath away. Almost everyone had gathered at the square, holding flowers, waving, and shouting my name. "Selena is back!" the children cried, running to meet me. My parents embraced me tightly, tears streaming down their faces. Miss Clara stood nearby, her smile radiant with pride. "Welcome home, Selena," Clara said warmly. "We've missed you." I couldn't hold back my tears. "Thank you," I said, my voice trembling. "It's because of all of you that I've come this far." That evening, the village held a celebration in my honor. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly cooked food, the sound of laughter, and the soft glow of lanterns. As I shared stories of my time abroad, about the people I'd met, the things I'd learned, and the places I'd seen, the villagers listened with rapt attention. For many, my experiences felt like a window into a world they had only imagined. A vision for the future. The next morning, as the excitement of my return settled, I met with Miss Clara to discuss what I had been dreaming about during my time abroad. "Want to open an English learning center here," I said. "A place where children and adults can learn not just English, but also other skills that will help them thrive in an ever-changing world." Clara's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful idea, Selena. Our village needs this, and I know you're the perfect person to make it happen." Together, we began planning. The first step was finding a space for the center. The unused community hall near the village square seemed perfect. With the villagers' support, we cleaned, painted, and transformed the space into a welcoming environment. Clara and I pooled resources to buy chalkboards, books, and basic supplies, and I reached out to contacts I had made abroad to request donations of learning materials. Soon, the Village Learning Center was born. We started with English classes, focusing on practical communication skills. Children came to learn the basics, while adults attended evening sessions to improve their job prospects. Word spread quickly, and the center became a bustling hub of activity. Transforming lives. The impact of the center was immediate. Raju, one of the boys who had sat under the banyan tree during my first lessons, excelled in his English classes. He began helping his father communicate with traders from nearby towns, increasing their family's income. Priya, the little girl who had asked me to teach her years ago, became one of the most enthusiastic students, confidently introducing herself to visitors in English. Even the older villagers who had initially been hesitant began to see the value of the center. Ravi, a farmer, shared how learning English helped him negotiate better prices for his crops. I never thought I'd be speaking in English, he said, beaming. But here I am, doing it. Beyond language, the center also became a place for cultural exchange. With the help of my friends from abroad, we organized events where villagers could learn about different traditions, foods, and music from around the world. These events not only broadened horizons, but also strengthened the community's sense of pride and unity, challenges and perseverance. Of course, there were challenges. Funding was always a concern, and there were moments when I worried the center might not survive. Some villagers remained skeptical, questioning the need for such an initiative. But each time doubts arose, I reminded myself why I had started. The smiles on the faces of my students, the stories of lives transformed, and the growing spirit of hope in the village kept me going. Miss Clara was my unwavering support through it all. She helped me navigate every obstacle, offering advice and encouragement when I needed it most. "Selena," she said one evening as we worked late into the night, "you've done something extraordinary here. You've shown everyone that education is the key to unlocking possibilities." A ripple effect. As the center grew, so did its impact. We introduced new programs, such as computer literacy and vocational training, to equip villagers with skills for the modern world. We also started a scholarship fund to help talented students pursue higher education, ensuring they had opportunities beyond the village. One of the most memorable moments came when the first group of students from the center graduated and presented a short play entirely in English. Parents, siblings, and neighbors filled the community hall, their faces glowing with pride. As the children spoke their lines with confidence, I felt tears welling up. This was the dream I had envisioned, a community empowered by knowledge and united by the possibilities it brought. Full circle. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Miss Clara and I sat under the banyan tree, watching children practice English together. "Do you remember the day you asked me to teach you?" she asked, a nostalgic smile on her face. "I do," I said, laughing softly. "I never imagined it would lead to this." Clara nodded. "You've come full circle, Selena. You took what you learned and turned it into something that's changing lives. That's the true power of education." Her words stayed with me. The Learning Center was more than a place for lessons. It was a symbol of what could be achieved with determination, support, and a willingness to dream. Looking ahead. Though I had accomplished so much, I knew there was still more to do. The center was thriving, but my vision had grown. I dreamed of creating a network of learning centers in nearby villages, spreading the ripple effect of education and opportunity even further. As I lay in bed that night, listening to the familiar sounds of the village, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. My journey had brought me back to where it all began, but it had also transformed me and my community in ways I could never have imagined. This was just the beginning. The dream that started under the banyan tree was now a movement, and I was ready to see where it would take us next. Part 8. Expanding Impact and Collaborations. The Village Learning Center quickly became a cornerstone of our community. Its success inspired a wave of hope and curiosity, not just within our village, but also in nearby communities. Word of our efforts began to spread, and soon, people from other villages came to visit, eager to see what we had built and learn how they could replicate it. One day, while I was teaching a group of children, Miss Clara walked into the classroom with a visitor. He was a representative from an international organization that supported education initiatives in rural areas. Clara introduced him as Mr. David, a program officer who had heard about our learning center through a report shared by one of my friends abroad. "Selena," Mr. David said after observing a lesson, "what you've accomplished here is remarkable. Your center is not only teaching English but also empowering this community in ways that go beyond language. I'd like to discuss how we can support you in expanding your work." Laying the foundation for growth. The idea of expanding our reach excited and intimidated me at the same time. During our discussion, Mr. David proposed a partnership to establish similar centers in nearby villages. His organization would provide funding, resources, and training for local teachers, while I would oversee the development of the new centers and share my experience. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of planning. Clara and I traveled to neighboring villages, meeting with elders, parents, and community leaders. Some were enthusiastic, recognizing the potential benefits for their children. Others were more cautious, unsure about embracing such a significant change. I shared my story with them, emphasizing how learning English and other skills had transformed not just my life, but our entire village. Slowly, their doubts began to fade. With Mr. David's help, we secured the funding needed to build 2 new centers. Local volunteers stepped forward to assist with construction, donating their time and labor. It was a community effort, and seeing everyone come together filled me with pride and gratitude. Empowering local teachers. One of the most important aspects of the expansion was training local teachers. I knew from experience how vital a mentor could be, and I wanted to ensure that every center had dedicated, passionate educators like Miss Clara had been for me. We organized a series of teacher training workshops at the original Learning Center. Clara and I worked together to design the curriculum, focusing not just on teaching English, but also on methods to inspire and engage students. We invited experienced educators from the city to share their knowledge, and I led sessions on using storytelling and real-life examples to make lessons relatable. The workshops were a resounding success. Teachers from different villages bonded over their shared purpose, and many expressed how empowered they felt to bring meaningful change to their communities. Selena, one young teacher said, "You've shown us that even small steps can lead to big transformations. I can't wait to take this back to my village." Collaborating with global partners. As the centers began to take shape, I reached out to the friends I had made during my time abroad. Many were eager to support our mission. Maria, my close friend from Spain, organized a book drive, collecting English and bilingual books to send to the new centers. Another friend, an educator from Canada, offered to conduct virtual workshops for our teachers and students, introducing them to innovative teaching methods. Technology became an essential part of our growth. With the help of Mr. David's organization, we set up basic computer labs in each center, giving students access to online resources and enabling virtual exchanges with peers in other countries. Watching children from our village connect with students from faraway places was nothing short of magical. They laughed, shared stories, and practiced English together, breaking down cultural barriers and building bridges of understanding. Overcoming challenges, expanding the learning centers, wasn't without its challenges. Some villages faced resistance from those who believed traditional ways should remain untouched. Others struggled with limited infrastructure, such as unreliable electricity or lack of internet access. But each obstacle taught us valuable lessons. In one particularly remote village, we had to get creative. Without stable electricity, we set up solar panels to power the computer lab. Volunteers worked tirelessly to lay the foundation for what would become a thriving center. When it finally opened, the excitement among the villagers was palpable. Watching children eagerly flip through their first English books reminded me of why this journey mattered so much. Cultural exchange and community events. As the network of learning centers grew, so did the opportunities for cultural exchange. We began hosting annual education and culture festivals, where students from different villages came together to showcase what they had learned. There were English plays, traditional dances, storytelling sessions, and even cooking competitions featuring dishes from various regions. One year, Maria and a group of volunteers from Spain attended the festival. They taught the children flamenco dancing and shared stories about their own childhoods. In return, the villagers introduced them to our traditional music and crafts. These exchanges created an environment of mutual respect and appreciation, fostering a sense of global community. Celebrating milestones. A defining moment came when we opened our 10th Learning Center. The event was attended by villagers, teachers, and representatives from supporting organizations. Standing on the stage that day, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. "This is not just my journey," I said in my speech. "This is our journey. Together, we've proven that dreams can become reality, that communities can thrive when we support each other." The crowd erupted in applause, and as I looked out at the sea of faces, young and old, local and international, I realized how far we had come. The dream that had started under the banyan tree was now touching thousands of lives, creating ripples of change across the region. Looking to the future. Though we had achieved so much, I knew there was still more to do. I began working with Clara, Maria, and our growing network of teachers to develop programs beyond language learning, including entrepreneurship, environmental education, and women's empowerment initiatives. My vision was to create a model that could be replicated not just in our country, but anywhere in the world where communities needed hope and opportunity. As I stood under the banyan tree one evening, watching children practice their English and hearing the laughter of villagers nearby, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. I knew that with the continued support of our community and collaborators, the best was yet to come. Part 9. Personal Reflection and Legacy. As I sat under the old banyan tree one evening, the golden light of the setting sun filtered through its branches, casting soft shadows on the ground. It was the same tree where my journey had truly begun, where I had first whispered English words to myself, unsure if I would ever master them. Now, years later, it felt like everything had come full circle. The village learning center was bustling with activity nearby. Children's laughter echoed through the air as they practiced English sentences, their voices filled with excitement and curiosity. A group of adults gathered in another corner, discussing job applications and practicing interview questions in English. Teachers moved between groups, guiding and encouraging them. The center had become a vibrant hub of learning, growth, and connection, a journey of growth. Reflecting on my journey, I couldn't help but marvel at how far I had come. I thought back to the little girl who had once felt trapped in her small village, dreaming of distant places and a life beyond the fields and trees. At the time, the world beyond seemed so vast and unattainable. But step by step, with the guidance of my mentor, Miss Clara, the support of my community, and my own determination, I had turned those dreams into reality. Learning English had been the key that unlocked countless opportunities. It had taken me to faraway lands, introduced me to incredible people, and given me the tools to create something meaningful for others. But more than that, it had taught me the value of resilience, the importance of education, and the power of giving back, the impact of a shared dream. As I walked through the Learning Center that evening, I stopped to listen to Priya, one of my earliest students, who is now leading a group of younger children in an English storytelling session. Her confidence and passion filled me with pride. Priya had grown into a remarkable young woman, and she often spoke about wanting to become a teacher herself someday. Watching her, I saw the ripple effect of what we had started. This center wasn't just about learning a language. It was about empowerment, self-belief, and the collective strength of a community. Every child who learned to read and write in English, every adult who gained the confidence to communicate beyond the village, was a testament to what we could achieve together. The center had become more than a building. It was a symbol of hope, possibility, and the unshakable belief that no dream was too big, honoring the past. One of the most meaningful moments of my journey came when I honored Miss Clara, my mentor, and the person who had first believed in me. At a community gathering, I presented her with a plaque that read, "To Miss Clara, whose eye, guidance, and belief turned dreams into reality." Tears filled her eyes as she hugged me. "Selena," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "this journey is as much yours as it is mine. You've carried the torch forward and lit the way for so many others. I'm so proud of you." Her words stayed with me, a reminder of the power of mentorship and the impact one person can have on another's life. I resolved to be that mentor for others, just as she had been for me. A global legacy. As our learning center grew, so did its reach. Through partnerships with international organizations and friends I had made during my time abroad, We established programs that connected our students with peers from different countries. Virtual exchanges, cultural festivals, and collaborative projects created a sense of global community that transcended borders. I often thought about the old traveler who had first told me the story of the girl who learned English. His tale had planted the seed of my dream, and now that dream had blossomed into something far greater than I could have imagined. I hoped that one day my story might inspire someone else to take the first step toward their own dreams. Looking ahead, though, I had accomplished so much I knew there was still more to do. I began planning ways to make our programs sustainable for future generations. We established scholarships for students who wanted to pursue higher education and created mentorship initiatives to guide young leaders within the community. I wanted to ensure that the work we had started would continue to grow, even when I was no longer around to lead it. My vision expanded beyond our village. I dreamed of creating a network of learning centers across the region, each tailored to the unique needs of its community. These centers would focus not just on language, but also on skills like entrepreneurship, technology, and environmental stewardship. I wanted to empower people to shape their own futures and make meaningful contributions to the world. A personal reflection. Sitting under the banyan tree that evening, I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been moments of doubt, fear, and setbacks. But through it all, I had learned that resilience and determination could overcome even the most daunting challenges. I thought about the countless faces that had been part of my journey. Miss Clara, who had guided me with patience and kindness. Maria, who had shown me the beauty of cultural exchange. And the children and adults whose lives had been touched by our center. Each of them had played a role in shaping the person I had become, a message for the future. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, I thought about the generations yet to come. I hoped they would see the Learning Center not just as a place for education, but as a reminder that dreams are worth pursuing, no matter how impossible they might seem at first. Before leaving the banyan tree, I whispered softly to myself, "This is not the end. It's the beginning of something greater." With that thought, I stood up, ready to continue the journey, not just for myself, but for everyone who believed in the power of dreams. Great work today. Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.